Okay, welcome to, what is this, patch 11.10. I'm going to be going over patch 11.10. You guys haven't liked the longer versions of these so much lately, so I'm going to try to keep it much shorter and try to go over them much quicker so you guys can understand them all. Okay, so in 11.10, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me say that right at the beginning, otherwise you guys forget. So Bard is losing 10 damage on his passive because Bard has been an extremely high win rate champion for a very long time. A lot of people think it's only one tricks, but actually Bard's been doing really, really good. Basically, Bard does less damage now. There's not really a whole lot to talk about it. His passive does less damage by 10. It'll still scale as well, but it'll do 10 less damage the entire game, which also very much impacts his early game. Yeah, that's about it. Darius's apprehend cooldown is going up 2 seconds at the early game and going up 6 seconds in the late game. Basically, with things like Ghost and what is the other one? The Stridebreaker, Darius has been able to run people down without needing his apprehend, meaning he can Stridebreaker in, then apprehend to pull them, and then he gets it back pretty quickly, and it's pretty frustrating to fight, especially because apprehend sets up a Q that can't be dodged. Basically, this is a large nerf to Darius, who's been overperforming pretty hard lately. Galio tends to perform very, 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 very well as a mid laner, and so they're nerfing the cooldown on his W and nerfing the shield scaling on his W. A lot of Galio players started to max W, which meant that he got really tanky, and he could kind of jankily wave clear by using his passive and stuff still, and he just ended up being really tanky and still really damaging with a hell of a lot of CC, which meant that his win rate tended to be extraordinarily high. So there he's less tanky and has a longer cooldown. Jinx is losing a bit of armor, and her execute against epic monsters is now capped. As you didn't know, Jinx's ultimate could execute monsters from an extremely large amount of health, which meant that Jinx tended to steal a lot of objectives that really she shouldn't be able to steal. So between her armor nerf and this nerf, there's actually a fairly large nerf between these two, because a lot of objectives would be stolen, which would give Jinx's teams wins that they really didn't deserve. And this especially makes her early game a little bit less safe. And I mean, 2 armor is 2 armor the entire game, right? Like it impacts you the entire game. So yeah, Katarina is losing a bit of movement speed. That means her laning phase is going to be a bit worse. She can dodge worse. It means her roaming is going to be worse. This is just kind of a nerf to the champion, and yeah, that's about it. It's just they're just taking away power from Katarina. Yep. Kale probably going to be an issue. The AP ratio, I think from her level 11 ability, level 11 passive, that's going up, and then at level 16, her range is going from 575 to 625. 625 is only slightly shorter than Caitlyn, and so I think that this is probably going to be an issue. Even though it's level 16 only, that's a fairly large buff to give to a champion like that. I kind of don't like Kale to begin with, but you'll see a lot of people playing for the let Kale scale strategy. Let Kale scale, which is going to work a lot better now. It's gonna be a thing. For Kennen, he's gaining more damage, 10 flat, and then the AP ratio is going up by 0.05, so from 20% to 25%. That's going up. The AD ratio isn't going up, but 10 flat damage, 5% more ability power scaling. Basically, it seems that they're trying to give Kennen a little bit more laning phase harassment power and a tiny bit more scaling. This probably won't do that much. If Kennen was like bullying top lane, this would be a decent way to tone him down. But it's a way to buff him, I think Kennen is popular in Korea and other ranks for his ability, or ranks, he's kind of popular in some regions for his ability to dominate the early game and then scale, but especially in other regions and at the lower ranks, the ability to hyper dominate top lane isn't really that important, and top lane as a lane isn't really that important right now anyway, so winning top lane doesn't really do that much. Yeah. Lux is getting what is she getting? She's getting a little bit more base damage on her E and a little bit more AP on her E. Her little explosion. Is that her E or her W? The little explodey thing. The AoE she has. So one of the things Riot doesn't want to do is let Lux clear the casters in the backline very easily. For those of you who play Lux and are probably annoyed by that, it's because it's a very long range ability and Lux is kind of a safe pick. So if she can very easily clear the back line, what tends to happen is that she stands back and does nothing and neutralizes the lane and neutralizes your ability to interact with her by just standing back and shielding and throwing roots at you whenever you get close. So what they're basically, from what I understand, what they're trying to do is at level 9, when the laning phase is basically over, then she can start one-shotting the casters. But before then, they don't want her one-shotting the casters. So that's where this buff seems to be aimed. It's not going to be that large of a buff. I mean, we're talking 20 damage at level 9 and 0.05 more AP. So this isn't like some crazy buff. It's just like, it's sort of like a buff aimed at mid lane and trying to be like, if you get level 9, yes, you can one-shot the casters. Before that, no. Sejuani, okay, so this one I am kind of amazed by. So apparently Sejuani is supposed to be one of the low skill junglers, and in order to benefit that, and I'm not even joking with this one, okay? They're making it so that if you click E on an enemy, but your cursor isn't on them, it'll hit them anyway, so long as you're near them with your cursor. I think I might be taking the low skill jungler a little bit too seriously, because she will now literally be able to hit her E on people that the Sejuani player is too dumb to actually get their cursor on. You can, I could joke about this for a while, but I won't. Talon is losing some AD ratio on his Q. I think it also crits for 50% bonus AD. Something like that. I'm not going to double check it right now, but at either rate, it's losing some of the bonus AD ratio. Basically, Talon has been able to kill people and roam and dominate his lane a little bit too hard, and they're reducing his ability to do that. My personal opinion is the AD assassin items are too strong, and we're seeing the three big ones, Kiana and Talon and Zed, are all overperforming a little bit, in my opinion, because they power creep the AD assassination items a bit too hard. Thresh, since I started doing these videos, Thresh is now back for a third time. Once again, they're not touching the issue. The issue is Thresh's lantern is way too safe. Okay, people have gotten too good at learning how to use it. His lantern is way too safe of an ability. It gets people out of way too much crap. His Q and his E are way too good. His E cancels gap closers. His Q is practically an auto kill with how much damage in the game. His ult is also pretty good, and he just does a lot of damage with a lot of CC, with the ability to get people out of danger very easily. He's very broken. Now, the last times he got nerfed, I said, oh, well, maybe this nerf will do something. This time, in my opinion, okay, look, they're reducing his health by 30 at level 1. That's a lot, okay? He's going to lose some win rate for sure. Like, yeah, I guarantee he'll lose win rate. Like, that's what a nerf does. It lowers your win rate, right? But here's the thing is that I don't think this is really going to do that much. I think he'll still be overpowered. He'll be less broken, but he'll still be broken. We're talking about the #1 pick rate, very high win rate support, okay? This champion needs a hard nerf, not these tiny little pushes down. His scaling needs a nerf. The champion needs a nerf. I think this will do something, but unlike the last 2 times where I was cautiously trying to, like, you know, play, you know, in try to be unbiased, and by trying to be unbiased because I hate this champion, I've actually been biased. Because the last 2 times he got nerfed, I should have said, this is fucking shit, this won't do anything. This time I'm going to say, this is fucking shit, this won't do anything, okay? His nerf will go down a little bit. It will not be enough. Yumi is getting some damage on her Q. There's some bug fix for this one. But basically, her Q is gaining some base damage. That's about it. Yumi isn't doing that well, and they're just giving her... what is it, 10 more? So yeah, just 10 flat damage on her Q, which turns into 15 damage on the Empower Q. Not that big a buff. I guess it buffs Yumi's who actually can hit their Q, which surprisingly is not as many people as you would think. Anyway, so here's Zyra. Zyra's, her Vine Lashers will slow for more, and her W, which I think puts down the plant, that'll be on a lower cooldown. She'll have more plants, and they'll be able to slow for more. Yeah. That's it. That's about it. Not that big a deal. Abyssal Mask. Now this one is a bit of a bigger deal. I wanna zoom in on this one. So Abyssal Mask. Let me zoom in on it even harder. Abyssal Mask is gaining health and the damage ratio. It's going from 10 to 15% bonus damage, and the duration is going up. So that means as a champion who can't consistently CC, let's say someone like Shen or Cho'Gath, right? You'll have 5 seconds instead of 4 bonus damage. The bonus damage will be 15%, and you're gaining 50 more health. Now, this is a completely terrible item. Completely terrible item. No one should ever build this item in its current state. But here's the thing, is that this item is getting a fairly large buff. And I'm not saying that this item is going to be built. It still might be bad. But on the champions who can actually synergize with it pretty well, this is a pretty hefty buff. I didn't expect Riot to actually give a real buff to an MR item. And we also saw with Wit's End that it went from, yeah, it's shit to, maybe. But this item goes from being total crap to maybe. Gore Drinker is going from 8% missing health to 10, which is actually kind of a big deal. Kind of a good thing there, right? Kind of actually a good thing. So good job. Like, great job, right? Nothing more to say. Ginso's Rage Blade is going down in cost. That's it. Just not gaining anything, it's just going down in cost. In my opinion, this isn't that big a deal because it competes with Infinity Edge, and Infinity Edge, in my opinion, still wins 10 out of 10 times. But if you want to do an on-hit build, I guess you could get to your on-hit items a bit faster by 200 gold. Riftmaker is going from 2% damage per second to 3% damage, but it'll cap after 3 seconds instead of 5 seconds. There's also, here's a second change. Now, this is actually the more impactful change. Dealing damage and taking damage will now stack it, not just dealing damage. So this is actually a significant buff to Mord and to other champions who could be hit before. Like if you're playing Mord, you're obviously always going to get hit before you hit your enemy, right? And now that'll start stacking it. So if I'm playing Mord and I'm fighting an AD carry, if they hit me for 1, 2, 3 seconds, the second I hit them, right, I'm already fully stacked. This old system was terrible, and you could practically never hit. This new system is damn good. This item is actually looking quite powerful now. This item actually looks pretty good right now. Yeah. Phase Rush is eating a massive nerf because it was crazily overpowered. Its late game is getting a tiny bit of a buff, but the movement speed is going down a lot at the early game. So the early game, it's double the cooldown at level 1 with far less movement speed. This shit's getting destroyed with nerfs. Phase Rush will still be viable. It'll still be good. But in my opinion, it won't be the default rune to pick into every melee matchup as a form of, hey, let's go ignore melee. Now melee champions might actually have the opportunity to fight back. In mid lane, this is going to be fairly impactful because practically everyone was going Phase Rush these days. In top lane, this is going to be extremely impactful as every melee character that fought a ranged character had to fight Phase Rush, and this is extremely impactful. Kennens and Vladimir's and those sorts of champions that would go Phase Rush. Gragas, there's one too. They can't just go Phase Rush and totally ignore you anymore, which is kind of a really big deal. Jungle update. So this is a lot of text, but when I read through it, it wasn't really that big a deal. So basically, here's what they're doing. Okay, let me try to explain this for you guys. The camp respawn timers are going up. The health on the buffs and scuttler is going up by a tiny bit. 50 at level 1 and slightly less than 100 later on. So basically, the buffs will be a tiny bit tankier. We're talking 1 auto attack tankier. That'll slow people down a little bit, not that much. Damage from camps is overall going down. The Omni Vamp on the jungle items going down. The Smite heal is going up. So far with those changes, basically you will have less camps to farm and you will heal for slightly less on them, but they will also deal slightly less damage. The buffs will be slightly tankier. Their early game will be a tiny bit. We're talking like they will get to your lane 2 seconds later. 2 seconds. Man, probably not even 2. So very little change from that perspective. The camp respawn timer going down is kind of a big deal. Or I should say the respawn timer going up. Less healing from the jungle items. So if you fast clear the camps, you can't just use them as... Well, I mean, you still can use them as a healing, but less healing, okay? And what was the last change? They will give slightly more gold to compensate for the respawn timer going up. Oh, here's it. Okay, here's this. Smite will now be a 450 to 900 instead of being 350 to 1,000 and it going up per level. It's now 450. Once you upgrade it, 900. No in between. So these changes as a whole, a lot of people are reacting to them very negatively. I don't think they really actually change that much when you break them down. You'll heal for less, but they'll deal less damage. You'll have less camps to spawn, but they'll give more gold. Smite will deal slightly more, but the camps will have slightly more HP. You'll have less camps to farm. They're bringing back comeback experience, but the comeback experience needs you to be too... Here's the thing. You need to be... what is this one? If you're 2 levels below the average levels of all players in the game, that would need you to be destroyed to activate. Now, let's just keep this clear. If your top laner is level 9 and your bot laner is level 7 and the average level of the entire game is level 8, right? You would need to be level 6. Okay? So you would need to be, that's the thing, you need to be below the average level. You would need to be below your bot lane in levels to activate this thing. Okay? So this is not, a lot of people are acting like this is some huge shift and people will now no, this is not like the old comeback experience at all. I think with the old comeback experience was it was quite easy to activate. This new one, you would have to be intentionally sandbagging yourself to get to this. It's practically not even worth mentioning. This is basically, if you've been absolutely manhandled out of your life, you'll activate it. That's it. So realistically, all these jungle changes, this is another change from Riot where they're trying to change the jungle and they're not really doing anything. I don't think this is really going to do much. I think junglers will still camp lanes. I just don't see this really doing anything. Kog'Maw's getting some graphic updates. Shockingly, after they pushed Kog'Maw so hard last patch, now they're giving a visual update. Shocker. Some new Arcanas, they actually kind of look good. I'll give them that. The Tahm Kench one looks really good. Lucian looks good. Zyra looks good. Camille looks good. Not the project skins. The project skins are coming next patch. But damn, those project skins look good. As for bug fixes, I didn't really see anything here that really was, I mean, melee champions got more range from rapid fire cannon and now they don't. There's not really any big, no, most of the time there's a bug fix that actually changes things. This time not so much. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for subscribing. A little bit longer than I wanted to be. Just kind of figured I'd try to go through these as quick as I could, give you guys the updates, give you guys what's going on, blah blah blah. So thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe.